In the name of the Creator, Redeemer, and Sanctifier. Amen. Please be seated. One of my favorite things about summer is when it gets really, really hot, I get to have a little bit of really cold, refreshing watermelon. Now, I love watermelon. I love watermelon for several reasons. One of them is because nothing is more satisfying on a hot day than a cold piece of watermelon. Nothing. The other thing is that it's just, it's so refreshing. And the third thing is that I remember growing up in the South, sitting on my parents' back porch, probably in pigtails, mind you, sitting with my dad, my best friend, and my sister, spitting seeds over the sides so I could see who could get the furthest, right? Really, when I have that slice of watermelon on a hot day, it really brings back those memories of family and friends and the joy I experienced during that time. So that's why when I take one bite, it's just not enough. And maybe it's something different for you. Maybe it's chocolate, or maybe it's ice cream, or maybe it's just something else. It's that insatiable desire. Insatiable desire. Now, the Greek word for greed is exactly that, insatiable desire. And today's parable is really about a different type of greed, I think, right? It's about a young brother who's really upset about his portion in the real estate. And so Jesus tells this parable of a rich man who has an abundant crop, so abundant he has a problem, what to do with this abundance. And so he has this internal dialogue, and he has that insatiable desire for two things, I think. One is wealth and status, but I think there's another one there. And so I'm going to reread the internal dialogue this man has and see if you can pick it up too. Then he thought to himself, "What should I do? For I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones. There I will store my grains and my goods, and I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have ample goods up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry.'" What do you think? Gluttony, security, fear, all of it, right? I is like over and over and over again. There's no mention of this poor man's community. I'm pretty sure that he didn't sow the seeds by himself nor store up the grain by himself. What's the deal here? I think there's a trap there. We have a little bit of isolation and this greed, this insatiable desire to have that wealth. Now, here's the thing. Why didn't he just sell all of the grain? Any ideas? Why was he thinking, I just need to build bigger storage? Well, what happens when you have a large amount of grain on the marketplace? What happens to the price? It drops. Now, we have learned and experienced the past few years what happens when there's scarcity of something. People will buy a whole bunch of toilet paper, put it in their garage, and sell it at exorbitant prices, right? That's what he's kind of doing here. He's storing all this grain so that he can sell it for a higher price. Shrewd businessman, but it's all about I, with no thought of the repercussions of the larger community. What are the repercussions of the larger community? As the price of grain goes up, the price of bread goes up, and it gets harder and harder to feed people around him. So this trap of, I'm going to build a party for myself, I'm going to have this beautiful space and all the great things, I'm going to have a great life, and the community is nowhere to be seen. He has a party for his soul, a party of one. What kind of party is that? that greed and that isolation, I think we know a little bit about in our culture and in our communities today. Now, I think people sometimes forget that we participate in this economy so that we may share it with others. That's why I participate in this economy, so that I may share it with my family and friends and have those moments over the side of the porch, right? But this man didn't do that. And at the end, he had nothing but grain. In the gospel, another version of this gospel, another translation called the Message, the last line says, "That's what happens when you fill your barn with self, not God." We are called to have barns full and rich with God. What does that look like? As I was thinking about this, I ran across the story of Lafayette, which I learned about it in history, about how he was an English, he was a nobleman, a French nobleman, and then came over and helped during the Revolutionary War. But he also, when he went back, he is known for his generous spirit. One time in 1783, there was a poor harvest, and miracle of all miracles, his farm was able to pull out a bumper crop, and they were to fill all of their barns. And one of the workers said to him, "This is the time to sell." And he, thinking about all the neighboring communities, said, "No, this is the time to give." And that is what he's known for and remembered, and why we have the town of Lafayette. That is storing up our storage sheds and storage areas full of God, right? It's about seeing others, being with others, knowing our community. It's about stepping up to support when our community needs us, or stepping back so that other voices in other parts could be done and heard. It's also knowing that we have a God who loves us and wants us to fill our storage bins full of love to share with others, and that we each have that little bit to be rich towards God. We can be a little bit richer towards God every moment of our lives. It could be big as changing something in your life that doesn't fit right or feel right, or it could be small as sitting next to someone and being truly present with them for a few moments. And so I ask you today, and I ask all of us today, to take a moment and to ask God, what can I do to be a little richer in you, God? What can I do? You see, we have a world that really needs our mending, and every little bit helps. May we have that insatiable desire, that watermelon-sized desire towards finding ways of sharing God's love, being a part of God's wisdom and justice in the world. Go out and be that love, that abundant love, and store your storage sheds full of that love to share. Amen.